Hi everybody and welcome to a grim dark future firefight battle report. Blood Brothers versus Eternal Dynasty. The small planet in the outskirts of the Legatos Sector grew increasingly unstable after seemingly endless bombardments. The planet was mostly evacuated, but small patrols were still on the planet's surface, and transportation options off the planets were increasingly difficult to find. Sergeant Elias and his squad of Blood Brothers approached a small station with a working space shuttle, only to find enemy activity nearby. A patrol of Eternal Dynasty warriors were also targeting the shuttle, as well as crates with valuable cargo. The Blood Brothers are under the command of Bloodmaster Sergeant Elias. He is a hero with a tough value of 3, armed with energy sword and plasma pistol. With him he has 2 Blood Support Brothers, one armed with heavy machine gun and one with heavy flamethrower. They both have the Relentless special rule. And then 2 regular Blood Brothers armed with heavy pistol. And they all have the Fearless and Furious special rules. Captain Hashix is the leader of the Eternal Dynasty. He's a hero with a tough value of 3, and he's also a sage with psychic powers. He's armed with heavy pistol and hook sword. Then we have a scout with targeting array, sniper rifle, and scout ability. We have 2 regular warriors with long rifles, and one of them is also in control of a Shishi turret with rockets. Finally, an attack drone armed with heavy laser gun and taser, and they are all fearless. And here we have a top view of the battlefield. There are 3 objectives on the battlefield. 2 crates, 1 green here and 1 brown, and they are worth 1 victory point. And the space shuttle objective in the middle is worth 2 victory points to whoever controls it at the end of turn 4. In the upper right corner, the Eternal Dynasty have deployed and are ready to go for the objectives. And in the lower left corner, Sergeant Elias and his Blood Brothers will try to do the same. And as a new thing, I'm going to use event cards in this battle report. So at the beginning of each round, a random event card will be drawn. And the effect will affect both squads. So there are several different event cards, and we can take a few examples. For example, the first one here, Dirt and Dust, where a unit must roll a d6, and on a roll of 1, the weapon is jammed and it's not possible to shoot. High Spirit, where all morale tests will get a +1 modifier. Then we have Magic in the Air, where all spells and block attempts get a +1 modifier as well. And another example, the Smell of Fear, where morale tests will get a -1 modifier. So there are several different types of event cards. We will see how it all plays out. But first, a roll-off. The Blood Brothers will use the red dice, and the Eternal Dynasty will roll the purple dice. And Sergeant Elias rolls a 1, and Captain Hashix a 5. The Eternal Dynasty will activate first. And the very first thing to do before the first round is to use the Scout ability. So the Eternal Dynasty Scout will move up to 12 inches. He takes cover here and is close to the brown crate objective. And now let's draw the first event card for the first round. Leader Aura. And that means that all units beginning a charge or shooting within 12 inches of an enemy leader will get a -1 modifier. Let's go to round number 1. The first unit to activate is an Eternal Dynasty Warrior, the one without the gun turret, and he rushes to the upper middle section of the battlefield. Next up, a Blood Brother here. He also moves into a better position. The Blood Brothers are typically armed with short-range weapons, so they have to be closer before they can shoot at the Dynasty Warriors. Next up, the Warrior with the gun turret. It's firing indirect rockets with the blast ability, but with a range of 24 inches, it's out of range. But the long rifle with a range of 30 inches is within range, so a shot. And with the Blood Brother in cover, a 4 is not enough. He would have needed a 5 to hit. Next up, the second Blood Brother. He rushes to the upper left part of the battlefield, and then an aggressive move by the Eternal Dynasty. They send in the attack drone and capture the middle objective. The support brother with the heavy machine gun advances, but he has no one in line of sight, so he decides to rush the rest of the way in cover behind this crate, but he cannot fire. Then we have the scout. He also rushes and captures the brown crate objective here, and he uses his targeting array at the Blood Brother with the heavy machine gun. So the next unit who takes a shot at him will have a +1 modifier. Sergeant Elias activates. He is also out of shooting range and he cannot reach the scout with a charge either, so he decides to stay here behind the cover. Captain Hashik's activates, and he knows his hook sword is his most dangerous weapon, so he also has to get close and personal with the Blood Brothers. And he is able to reach Sergeant Elias in the next round. And knowing that, the Blood Brother here with the flamethrower rushes in to protect his sergeant. And that was the final activation of round number 1. The Eternal Dynasty have captured one crate objective and also the space shuttle in the middle of the battlefield. So right now they have captured and earned 3 victory points. The Blood Brothers, 0. In the next round, the Eternal Dynasty will activate first. And the event card didn't really have any effect in this round, but we will now draw the event card for round number 2. And here we have point blank. All shooting attacks with a range of 12 inches or less get a +1 modifier. I think we'll see this one in action. Let's go to round number 2. Captain Hashik's activates first, and he tries to cast a spell on 2 friendly units within 12 inches. If he rolls a 4, he will get them a +1 modifier next time they shoot. He will need a 4 for the spell to work, and he rolls a 6. His magic has effect, and we'll put these blue tokens at the 2 Eternal Dynasty warriors for a +1 modifier next time they shoot. But he's not finished yet. He could charge the sergeant, but he would be exposed to the flamethrower afterwards. So instead he charges the Blood Brother with the flamethrower. He swings his deadly hook sword. He will need a 3 to hit, so it's a hit against the Blood Brother. And the hook sword is AP 2. Even though the Blood Brother has a tough armor, he will need a 5. And he rolls a 6. The hook sword hits, but will not penetrate the heavy Blood Brother armor, and Captain Hashik's must withdraw. And the Blood Brother decides not to fight back. Instead, Sergeant Elias activates, and he could also charge the captain now, but he targets the mission objective and the scout. 3 attacks hitting on a 3. And all of them hit. He has 2 regular attacks with the energy sword and a 3rd one because he's furious. And one of the hits is a rending hit. Doesn't really matter because the scout has a defense of 5. So he will need a 6 no matter what. And he fails all attacks against him. 3 wounds. And that will be very difficult for the scout to survive this. And we can remove the token because he will not shoot anybody in this turn. So let's see the roll on the wound chart. At 2, it's low enough for him to just survive and be stunned, but he is still in the game. The Dynasty warrior with the gun turret is still too far away to fire the rockets, and he doesn't move and expose himself. But he can fire his long rifle at the Blood Brother with the machine gun. And he has a +1 modifier and another +1 because he is targeted, so he will hit with everything but a roll of 1. And with a 2, it's a hit. Now, again, the Blood Brother armor must try to save. A roll of 3 is enough. And we will move his targeting token here. And then he will roll for the defense. And again, the armor is just too good and tough to be penetrated by the shots. Now this Blood Brother activates. He also stops his movement before he reaches the crate, and instead he fires at the drone. He would normally need a 4 because it's in cover, but he's within 12 inches, so the event card will affect him here. He will hit with a 3, so that's a hit. With his heavy pistol, it's an AP1 weapon, so the attack drone must roll a 5, and it fails the defense roll and takes 1 wound. So it goes down. A nice shot by the Blood Brother, and the roll on the wound chart is a 6. So instead of just 1 wound, it's a heavy malfunction for the attack drone, and it will leave the battle immediately and also leave the central objective under no control. Now the scout is heavily wounded here, but he gets back up on his feet. He's not able to do anything else this round. The machine gunner can do a lot though, so he captures the objective and fires his heavy machine gun 3 shots against Captain Hashik's. And with the event card, he will need a 2 to hit. And he hits with all of his shots. And with a 6, the relentless special rule will allow him to roll an additional die, and he also hits with that one. 4 hits against the captain. The machine gun is AP1. So Captain Hashik's will need 5s to block the shots. It's not looking good for the captain. He blocks 1, but he takes 3 hits, bullets flying all over, and he goes down with 3 wounds. And the roll on the wound chart will decide the fate of the captain. He rolls a 4. So he's not knocked out, but he is stunned in the middle of the battlefield, surrounded by Blood Brothers. The warrior in the top center of the battlefield advances, and from here he takes a shot at the Blood Brother with the machine gun. He will hit with a 3 because of the event card, and again a solid hit with the long rifle. But what about the Blood Brother armor? Again, the armor is too strong to be penetrated. And now Captain Hashik's has a problem. He is stunned, and here we have a Blood Brother. And he plans a charge against the stunned captain, and by doing so, he immediately knocks him out of this battle. That will be tough for the Eternal Dynasty to overcome. And there are no further Eternal Dynasty warriors to activate, so the Blood Brother with the flamethrower decides to charge the scout instead of trying to shoot him. He will not be able to reach him with his flamer. So he's a bit out of his comfort zone, but with a charge and 2 close combat attacks, he can maybe eliminate the scout. But even though he hits once, the scout will defend, and now he can fight back. He will hit with a roll of 4 with his close combat attack. And he hits with a 5. So now the Blood Brother will have to defend. And this time, the armor that cannot be penetrated by rockets and bullets seems to have a weak spot here, because he goes down with 1 wound. And what about the roll on the wound chart? Well, he is not knocked out. That would have been fatal, but he is stunned. So at the end here of the second round, the brown crate objective is contested by both. The middle objective, the space shuttle, is captured by the Blood Brothers, and the third and final crate is not yet controlled by anybody. It's not looking good, because the Eternal Dynasty warriors have lost the captain, and the Blood Brothers have suffered no casualties yet. But maybe an event card can change all that. Let's see the event card for the third round. And the event card is Infectious Insects. All of the units on the battlefield will be attacked by insects, and on a roll of 1, a model will take 1 wound. They will not roll on the wound chart or go down or anything, they'll just take 1 wound on a roll of 1 with a d6. Now let's see what happens in round number 3. Infectious insects swarm the battlefield, and we will roll for each model, and already now a 1, so this Blood Brother will take 1 hit. He is attacked by insects, and they wound him. Now the next one. He's safe, and the one in the corner here, also good. And what about Sergeant Elias? He doesn't care about insects. And the stunned Blood Brother with the flamethrower, he's not bothered by them either. Now the Dynasty Warriors, the Scout, rolls a 6, no problems. The Warrior with the rocket turret, also a 6. And finally the last Warrior, he's also good. So the bugs, or insects, only had the taste for this Blood Brother. He took 1 wound. The warriors seem to aim and hit just fine, but they are really troubled by the Blood Brother armor. Now the warrior with the rocket turret aims his rocket. Remember, it's indirect fire, so he can fire even though he can't see the enemy. And he will fire his rocket and try to hit both Elias and the Blood Brother. He needs a 4. So close, but no effect. He can also fire his long rifle, and he will try to hit the Blood Brother down here, and in this case he hits just fine. And now the Blood Brother armor will have to pass another test, and with a 4 still no problems when it comes to bullets, at least. So no hits. Sergeant Elias is the next one to activate, and he once again charges the Scout with 3 energy sword attacks hitting on 3s. And again he hits all of his attacks, and one of them is Rending, and that means the Scout will need 6s. He blocks one of the sword attacks, but the 2 other hit him, and he goes down with 5 wounds. So no matter what he rolls on the wound chart, he is finished. And that means Sergeant Elias can capture the crate objective. The Eternal Dynasty is now below half strength, so they will be forced to make morale tests at the end of this round. This warrior advances and captures the green crate, as well as firing his rifle at the Blood Brother. And they roll a lot of 6s, but they really can't penetrate the armor. Well, they could in this case. He fails his defend roll with a roll of 2, so he goes down with 1 wound. And he has to pass the roll on the wound chart as well. And this time, it's just too much. He is knocked out, and that will be the first casualty. Move by the warrior, but he is also in the middle of a bullet storm now, because the heavy machine gunner aims his weapon at him, 3 shots hitting on 4s, and he fails all of his shots. He needed a 4 because he's in cover, but he failed all of them. And now the brother with the flamethrower gets back up. He was knocked down by the Scout, but he's back. And a final move is this Blood Brother, armed with heavy pistol. He advances 6 inches, and then he fires his heavy pistol at the warrior. He also needs a 4 to hit because of the cover, and he has one shot, and he fails. So that warrior who took out one blood brother and captured the objective is still fine. But they will need to take morale tests now. They will need a roll of 3 because they are fearless. So the warrior with the rocket turret is good. And now the second warrior, and he fails. Well, he was doing so good, but all these bullets and attacks were just too much for him. So, well, he left. That leaves one warrior left on the battlefield against 4 blood brothers. I think it's safe to say that the blood brothers will take this one home, but maybe an event card can play a trick or two on the sergeant and the brothers. Let's see. Heavy rain. So all shots with a range of more than 12 inches will get a -1 modifier because of low visibility. Well, let's see how things end up in round 4. The last remaining warrior tries once again to fire his rocket turret and hit as many blood brothers as possible. And he aims it at the sergeant and the brother with the flamethrower. But he is more than 12 inches away, so the heavy rain will give him a -1 modifier. He will need a 5. And he is so far from hitting anything. He can fire his rifle as well. And with a 6, he hits. So a defense roll of 3 or more is needed, and the sergeant is just fine. And that means that this blood brother can activate, and he can take control of the third and final objective. And, well, the Eternal Dynasty really cannot do anything about it. The blood brothers take all 4 victory points, and they are victorious here at the end of round 4. They leave the planet in the space shuttle with all the valuable cargo they can get, and we will continue to follow their adventures. Thanks a lot for watching this battle report. I hope you'll join me for future bad rips.